This time we're considering fractions, decimals, percents, and specifically how do we go from one form to another. These are all different ways we can write numbers. And before we get started in detail, let's consider and just make sure we map out all the different conversions we have to do. So we have these three forms, but we have to go back and forth between each one. So we need to be clear about how we go from a fraction to a decimal, from a decimal to a fraction, how we go from a decimal to a percent, and how to go from percent to a decimal. And then lastly, how to go between a fraction and a percent and a fraction. So I'm going to take this map right here and simplify it to this form here, and that is between fractions and decimals both ways, between decimals and percents both ways, and between fractions and percents both ways. And we're going to start out with converting between fractions and percents. So we're going to take care of this part of our little conversions we have to consider. And let's consider fractions to percents. Well, in the nice cases, we have something like this. Now, why is this nice? Well, we have to remember that percent literally means out of 100. Literally out of 100. Well, out of 100 is another way to think about how we write as, how we say fractions sometimes. So something out of 100. So this one's nice because all I need to do is multiply 5 by 20, top and bottom, and I can get to have a bottom of 100. So 5 times 20 is 100, 3 times 20 is 60, 60 100, 60 out of 100, 60%. Now that's when it's nice. But when it's not so nice, you might have something like this. 3/8. What's that as a percentage? Well, if we use this method, I don't really see a way to go from 8 to 100 in one swoop, but I do know that I can multiply it by 100, and then I have 300 over 800. Now that doesn't help, that's not out of 100, but I can certainly divide the bottom by 8, and then divide the top by 8, and then I will have something out of 100. So now I just have this problem right here. What is 300 divided by 8? Well, 8 goes into 33 times, that's 24. Using a 6, bring down the 0. 8 goes into 67 times, so 8 times 7 is 56. It leaves me with 4. I'm going to have to add a decimal point and add a 0. Bring it down. How many 8's going to 40? Well, bring up the decimal point. 5 do. 5 times 8 is 40. And so 300 divided by 8 is 37 5/10. So this is 37.5%. Now, I don't know that I recommend this method, but this is one way it works. Let's worry about going from percent to a fraction. Thankfully, this is a little more straightforward. Say if I have 63%. Well, percent's out of 100, so this simply converts to 63 out of 100. And bada bing, bada boom, we're done. You may have a case that looks more like this, 64%, which would be 64 out of 100. And we can see that both these are even. Matter of fact, they're both divisible by 4. If the instruction includes simplify, which it often does, 64 divided by 4 is 16. 100 divided by 4 is 25. So 64% is the same thing as 16/25. So there you go. Converting between fraction to percent and percent to a fraction. Next up, let's work on, so we took care of this leg. Let's take care of decimals to percents. That is, let's focus on this leg of our conversion. Specifically, we'll start off with how do you go from a decimal to a percent. Well, thankfully, this works out quite nicely. if I have a value, let's choose something like this. 0 and 375,000. Well, it's simple. Move 2 places. I move the decimal. I should say move the decimal 2 places. So I'm going to keep going. Move 2 places to the right. So I need to switch these. Sorry, move the decimal 2 places to the right. So if I do that, I'm left with 37.5%. And this should make, and this is the same thing as going there it is, 37.5%. Now let's go from percent to a decimal. And this time I'll write this more accurately. This time I'm going to write my percent. Here's my 64%, right? This time I'm going to move the decimal 2 places left. That is, where is the decimal point in 64? Well, it's right there. And this time I'm going to move it 2 places to the left. And I end up 0 and 64/100ths. And that matches what we did earlier, going between the fraction and the percent. Because I can think of this as 64/100ths. And that's literally how I say this too, isn't it? So now we've taken care of the decimal percent and the percent to a decimal. That leaves us with one other leg of this triangle. So we've done this leg, we've done this leg. Now all we have left is the decimal to the fraction. So here we are, work on this leg, and let's go between the fraction to the decimal. So here is our fraction, 3/8. Well, here we want to remember that a fraction is also a division problem. See, a fraction is just another way to write division. Specifically, 3 divided by 8. So it's the numerator divided by the denominator. That is the top divided by the bottom. So in this case, I would have 3 divided by 8. Well, how many 8s go into 3? Well, 0. So I'm going to have to add a decimal point and bring the decimal point up. Add a 0. How many 8s go into 30? Well, 3 do. 3 times 8 is 24. That leaves me with 6. I'm going to have to bring down another 0. How many 8s go into 60? Well, 7 do. 7 times 8 is 56. Subtract, I get a 4. I'll bring another 0 down. How many 8s go into 40? Well, 5 do. 5 times 8 is 40. And there I am, at the end. So, 3/8 is the same thing as 0 and 375,000ths. That is, we converted our fraction to a decimal by simply thinking this as a division problem, which it is. So that leaves us with going between a decimal to a fraction. And here, the thing to know is to correctly pronounce the decimal. So let's take a look at this. This is why I don't like it when my students say 0.25, because it doesn't give you an idea about how to turn this into a fraction. But if we correctly say this as 0, and that's the decimal point, 25/100ths, that's how we correctly say 0 and 25/100ths. Well, 25 hundredths. I listen to what I say and I write what I say, 25 hundredths. And in this case, I can simplify top and bottom. 25 divided by 25 is 1. 100 by 25 is 4. And so 25 hundredths is the same thing as 25 over 100. We simplify is 1/4. There we go. We've been through all legs of our triangle here, going between the different forms. I hope this helps. Go and practice and be awesome.